Verbal Riot.
Well, y'all, Superman is out and the fandom is divided, just like I thought it would be. There is a lot to talk about, and I am going to get into it because there are some things happening online that are just asinine, right? I understand if you don't like the movie, that's fine. My job here isn't to make you like it, but I do want to talk about some problematic things that are happening right now when it comes to this movie that are almost outside of the movie itself. Before I do that, though, because I am going to get deep into the weeds of this, let me warn you: there will be spoilers. I'm going to drop a big spoiler warning. I'm gonna let you guys know when the spoilers are coming. If you haven't seen the movie yet, I'm gonna give you your opportunity to check out and then come back later and watch the spoiler review. But I am going to talk about some things leading up to that before I get too deep into it. So you got some time. But before I do that, guys, do me a big favor. Uh, Sub to the channel. If you haven't already, I would greatly appreciate it. It doesn't cost you a dime. It's totally free, but it also helps out my channel quite a bit. And yeah, that'd be very cool if you could do that. So sub to the channel, and I will greatly appreciate that. But let's get into it, all right? We've known about this movie now, it feels like for 5 years. It hasn't been that long, but it feels like 5 years, right? James Gunn, creator of Guardians of the Galaxy, well, the movies, not the comic. Suicide Squad. He's done a bunch of other movies like Slither, movies that I love. I'm a big fan of James Gunn, and I do give him a lot of grace. But being a critic, because I'm actually a certified critic, not just a YouTuber. I I'm going to judge his movie accordingly, right? Like I'm not going to give him too much space because you know what? That's not what I do. I always tell the truth. I always judge a movie fairly, and if the movie's great, I'll say it. If it sucks, I'm gonna say that too. So I am going to get deep into the weeds of that. But before I do that, let's just talk about you know how we got here, right? Because yeah, we were all kind of excited when we heard James Gunn was going to take the helm of the DC universe, right? Like we all applauded. For most of us did anyway. We were like, finally, DC finally has some direction because they've had no direction leading up to this point, right? I mean, I know there's a lot of guys who love the Zack Snyder movies. This this video isn't meant to trash Zack Snyder fans, okay? I know they call you guys Snyder Bros or Snyder bots and all that. That's not what I'm here to do. Okay, if you like Zack Snyder stuff, that's fine. That's fine. Okay, we're all entitled to like what we like. Okay, but some of y'all are some problem ass motherfuckers. Okay, like I got to tell you that. It's okay to love a certain director. It's okay to love a certain set of movies. I know I love mine, but y'all tend to be a little bit more aggro about this shit. Now, why you guys are so ride or die for Zack Snyder, I have zero idea, right? Of all the directors in Hollywood to be a huge fanboy of, Zack Snyder Zack Snyder would be so below the list for me. I anyway, not my thing, but if people like Zack Snyder, that's fine. But Zack Snyder fans were not the real problem here. They're not the problem so much so, right? The problem was from James Gunn himself. James Gunn has put his foot in his mouth for probably the past 8 months when it comes to this movie. I hate the marketing. I hate the marketing that went into this film. It is garbage. I wish he just would have let the professionals, and when I say professionals, I mean the marketing team, do their job instead of posting things on his own because he kept posting all these snippets and teasers and behind the scenes things that really kind of I feel like killed the momentum going into this film. There were a lot of problems with this movie that I'm going to get into, but I think the biggest problem was James Gunn's marketing of this film because I think he took too much on. He took way too much on for himself. Now, okay, I get it. You want people to be hyped for your film. I understand that. But then he starts doing these interviews where he starts bringing in current day politics, right? He's talking about Superman being an immigrant, which normally that probably wouldn't bug anybody. If James Gunn would have said Superman was an immigrant 10 years ago, no one would care. No one would have batted an eye. They would have been like, yeah, okay, sure. He's an immigrant, right? He's not from here. He crash landed here, whatever, right? Not a big deal. But because these current times, man, they're hyper political. They're super political, and I feel like it was the wrong thing for him to do, right? He should have just left the politics out of it. But it's a little too late. And what really kind of put the final nail in all of this was that stupid Variety article where he's talking about the immigrants, and then they do the red carpet where that one asshole from Variety magazine who asked celebrities dumb questions to try to trick them up and get them to say something stupid. Well, he did it again, right? He did it with Agatha, right? When he was asking asking the whole entire crew if it was the gayest Marvel series that we've ever had, and he did it again with Superman. So, and I don't know if you guys have seen these clips, but I am going to show you a couple of them. So this is with him talking to Sean Gunn, who is the dopey, stupid younger brother of James Gunn.
Your boss, your brother, talked about Superman being an immigrant. And now MAGA is already upset that he's called Superman an immigrant. I wanted to get your reaction.
My reaction to that is that it is exactly what the movie is about. I think that we support our people. We love our immigrants. Yes, Superman is an immigrant. And yes, the people that we support in this country are immigrants.
By the way, really quickly, I think he is high as fuck during this interview. There's no way that this guy didn't just do a bump of cocaine before he did this interview right now. I'm just putting it out there. I know the signs. So,
and if you don't like that, then you're not American. People who say no to immigrants are against the American way. They're against what the American dream is all about.
Truth, justice, and the American way.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that was Sean Gunn's interview on the red carpet with this asshole. I think his name is Mark Malkin or something like that. But he does this, right? He asks celebrities during their red carpet really controversial questions. He throws out MAGA out there, to try to spark a response. And unfortunately, all of these people they took the bait, right? Because here's another one with Nathan Fillion, who, by the way, does answer it a lot better than Sean Gunn. But
that Superman is an immigrant story, that it is political. MAGA today was getting a little upset that he called Superman an immigrant. I wanted to get your reaction.
Somebody needs a hug.
So Nathan Fillion, let me play the rest.
It's just a movie, guys. It's just a movie.
Oh, and he is right. Okay, it is just a movie. So, and I like Nathan Fillion a lot, man. I'm never going to trash Nathan Fillion. I think he's a good dude. But I feel like he did answer it a lot better than Sean Gunn did, if we're being honest. But even then, there was still a little bit of condescension within that response. But I kind of get it, right? I do kind of get it. But let's look at what James Gunn himself had to say.
It's a political movie. MAGA today is going nuts. What do you have to say to MAGA?
I don't have anything. I think this movie's for everybody. I don't have anything to say to anybody. I'm not here to judge people, I think this is a movie about kindness, and I think that's something everyone can relate to.
Okay, so that was a fair answer, right? That was a decent answer from James Gunn. Now, I don't want to give James too credit because he's the one who started this in the first place. He's the one who brought up the week before in an interview that Superman was an immigrant, that this was an immigrant story. And of course, people lost their fucking minds about it because they have no chill, right? It's I get it, guys. We live in political times. People don't like the illegal immigration going on. Well, half the country doesn't anyway. I get that. But I felt like he just threw like gasoline on the fire. That didn't need to be there. It didn't need to be there. He shouldn't have even talked about immigration, right? But Hollywood can't help themselves. And even though I am a James Gunn fan, I got to give him shit for that. I feel like Gunn knew better than that. He knew way better than to pull some shit like that. But regardless, people were going to watch this movie. Didn't matter. But I felt like they did go in there with a certain bias now. They went in there with a little bit of a certain prejudice in their heart because they don't like the things James Gunn has talked about leading up to the film. So that's the controversy, right? Now, whether that has any bearing on how well this movie is going to do, I have no idea. I think this movie is going to do well. I think that people are going to show up. They're going to watch it. And I saw it Monday, and I definitely want to see it again, right? Because I feel like it was a lot to take in the first time. So I want to watch it again. So I know this movie's going to do well. But there's a division from the people who've seen it already, right? There's been a big divide. There's a lot of arguments about the way Superman is portrayed in this film, and I am definitely going to get into that. So I am going to put the spoiler up right now, just in case, because I feel like, yeah, here we go. There it is. There it is, y'all. Big ass spoiler warning. I'm letting you guys know right now that the things I'm going to talk about, there's going to be some spoilers in there. If you haven't seen the movie yet, this is your time to check out. And I really, I hope that if you do check out and go watch the film, come back and watch this video, because you'll understand what I'm talking about once you've seen it for yourself, right? Now, for those of you who don't care at all and who don't plan to see it, then stay where you are, watch the video. But let's really get into this. Okay, so the biggest problem that people have about this film, and the thing that they're missing the most, right? Because, like the title of the video says, there is something crucial that people keep leaving out when they talk about this movie. In this movie, Superman, this is a year 3 Superman, okay? This is him in his 3rd year of being Superman. He's young. He's still figuring things out, even with his powers, right? He's strong as hell. He is still Superman in every way, right? This guy is holding up kaijus by himself. He's holding up buildings by himself. People act like Superman was depowered in this film. No, he's powerful as shit. The problem is, though, in this film, and maybe they're not used to this, in this film, he's fighting people who actually have the same power level that he does. Well, the people who kick his ass, right? Because he does get his ass kicked a few times, but each time is by somebody at his power level, right? He's not getting his ass beat by a human being the way, and I love Henry Cavill to death. I love Henry Cavill. I'll support him in anything he does. He wasn't the problem with Zack Snyder's Man of Steel. But Henry Cavill Superman got his ass beat by Batman in Batman versus Superman. He got beat by a fucking human being. Batman would have killed him. You hear that? Batman would have killed him if he didn't say the word Martha. Right? If it weren't for that scene, Batman would have stuck that spear right through his heart. Superman losing to a human being. But yet they're saying that this Superman, that David Cornsweet, that his Superman was weak and depowered and getting his ass kicked. Yeah, he got his ass kicked by Ultraman, and he got his ass kicked by a kaiju. Okay? Yeah. I can see that happening. I can see that being a problem. But I feel like there's this weird thing about, like, he's not masculine enough. He's not stoic enough. He's not reverent enough. And I'm like, guys, this is year 3. He's still practically Superboy in this. Right? This is a young Superman that we're dealing with. It'd be like judging Batman, right? A year one Batman, comparing him to like his Batman at his peak. That's the comparison. And by the way, how boring and ridiculous would this movie be if Superman started out completely OP, right? Completely OP, right? It's like, okay, movie starts, Superman beats everybody, movie over. That'd be a fucking 5-minute movie. No, you want to see Superman go through some challenges. You want to see him fight people at his own power level. That was my complaint before Cavill. That was my complaint with most of the Superman live action stuff, is that when is he going to fight someone at his own power level, right? When is he going to meet his challenge? Now, in Man of Steel, he did. He fought Zod and the Kryptonians. Got his ass kicked. He got his ass kicked, right? And killed somebody. Right? He fought Batman and Batman versus Superman. Got his ass kicked by Batman. And then got killed by Doomsday. Got his ass kicked, right? So all of this, oh, this is a weak Superman, right? And he can't even like stand up to any of the foes that he fights. It's like that he was doing that the whole film. But he kept getting back up and he kept fighting. And that was the inspiration, right? So I'm having a bit of a hard time. Now, don't get me wrong, guys. This movie does have a lot of problems. It has a lot of problems. I like the film. Okay, I'm just going to put that out there. I really like this movie. Right? I love the actors. I thought they all did a good job. I thought David did a good job. I thought Rachel did a good job. I thought Nicholas Hoult, I thought he did a good job. Everyone did a phenomenal job for me, right? As far as playing the characters I just did that, that they were playing. The problem was the movie was clunky, okay? It was very clunky. It had some problems. It had a really bizarre pacing issue for me. I felt like things felt too rushed. I felt like there were moments that they could have lived in those moments a little bit longer. Like there were sentimental scenes where we would have got more out of it if it wasn't like so much chaos going on in the background. Like there's a scene where he's having this, kind of tender moment with Lois, and they're having a very heartfelt talk. But right outside their window, you see the Justice League, this version of the Justice League, Guy Gardner, Mr. Terrific, Hawkgirl. You see them fighting this weird alien outside of the window, like in the background, while him and Lois are having this intimate moment. So I thought a lot of that was bad, okay? And it does speak to James Gunn's weaknesses, right? I don't think James Gunn is very good at intimate moments. I think he tries to kind of overplay them with either comedy or spectacle. Like he's not good at just living in intimate moments. And I feel like that's something that for me is a weakness of his. So I didn't like that. But regardless, I mean, it was just one scene for me. It was one scene that kind of took me out. Overall, the movie is fun. I had a good time with it. Is it a perfect film? Is it a perfect Superman film? Not at all. But it's very enjoyable. Like the other complaint that I've been hearing online is that all the men are weak. All the men are, because, they show emotion, right? They get angry. They get upset. And in some scenes, the men cry. Okay, let's pull that back a little bit. There is a very, very heartfelt scene where Superman is going through a kind of a crisis of conscience. He found out some things about his Kryptonian parents that were still kind of confusing as to whether it was true or not. And he's having a heartfelt moment with Jonathan Kent. And it's a very deep scene, with a father and his son. And Jonathan Kent starts to tear up a little bit as he's trying to encourage his son and get him back in the fight. And I didn't feel like that was a weak moment because a father was shedding some tears because he felt so bad for his son. Like it's weird for me that people are using this as an example of weakness, right? Like no one is sitting there blabbering You know, no one is ugly crying through the whole film. There's just a scene or two where there's an emotional scene and some tears form up, right? I mean, they're making a way bigger deal of it than there needs to be. But again, my thing is, if you don't like the film, I understand that. I understand that. Like, if you don't like it, it's not your cup of tea. It's not your Superman. That's totally fair. But you also got to be fair about the way you got to be fair about your arguments too. Because some of y'all are bullshitting. Like, some of y'all are just making up stuff, man. If you don't like the film, you don't like it. But you know, you don't have to be a fucking, film critic to state your point without making some shit up. This movie is going to divide, okay? It is. It's going to divide people. Again, there are things I didn't like about it. I brought up Jonathan Kent, but here's the thing. I did not like the way they portrayed Jonathan and Martha Kent. I felt like they kind of made them stupid hillbillies, if I'm being honest. And I say that as, not as an offense, but that's basically what it was. Okay, I don't want to say that they were playing a stereotype. They were playing a stereotype of stupid hillbillies. That's my problem. Other than that, and a few other minor characters that got kind of annoying, everyone else kind of did a great job for me, man. I love the way they portrayed Jimmy Olsen. I wish I could remember the actor's name offhand. He was in that show, The Righteous Gemstones. He plays the son. Really, really good actor. And I thought he did a great job as Jimmy. They made Jimmy kind of a playboy in this movie, which was kind of funny because he doesn't act like a playboy, but all the women wanted him. It was played for jokes, but it was all in good fun. It was all in good humor, right? I love the fact that Cat Grant and Miss Tessmacher, they were allowed to finally be sexy, right? We were allowed to have sexy women in a fucking comic book movie. He didn't hold back from that. There have been complaints. There have been some complaints that Lois Lane didn't dress feminine enough. That I'm on the fence about. I don't care. I don't care. Yes, Rachel Brosnahan is a gorgeous woman. Was she allowed to be gorgeous in the film? She was allowed to be a cute girl next door. But no, she was not, you don't see Lois in high heels and a skirt. So, but here's the thing. If you're watching a Superman movie, is that really why you're there? Are you really there to watch Lois Lane? Don't get me wrong. Lois is very important to Superman, very important to the lore, very important to the story. You're not there to goon over Lois Lane, right? So, again, I personally, if I were to judge this film, man, I would give it I'd probably give it like a 7. I'd give it a solid 7 or a 7.5. I think that I enjoyed it. I had a good time with it. It had problems. It did have a lot of problems, but it was still a fun ride and it was still a fun watch. And I felt like what really held it together were the performances of the actors, man. Nicholas Hoult, I liked him a lot as Lex. And I think he did a great job. For me, though, the standout, and this isn't undercutting David Cornsweet. It's not undercutting Superman. But Mr. Terrific, and you're going to hear this a lot, Mr. Terrific kind of steals the show. And not in a way of, saying that, oh, the film was about him and blah, blah, blah. No, he just did such a good job. In every scene he was in, man, like there was so much charisma and there was so much. I love what they did with Mr. Terrific in this film. Because I've always loved Mr. Terrific as a character. In the comics, when he was the head of the JSA, I didn't like what they did with him in Arrow. I thought they kind of femmed him up a little bit, and that was some bullshit. Hated him in Arrow, but he's been great in everything else that I've seen him in. But yeah, Guy Gardner, I thought Guy Gardner, Nathan Fillion, did a phenomenal job. He was literally Guy Gardner. He was that asshole that everyone loves or loves to hate, I should say. Did a great job. Call Girl was just kind of there. She was just kind of there. She really added nothing to the film for me. I wish they would have did something a little bit different with her, but whatever. But here's the thing: it wasn't her movie, right? This was a Superman movie. The Justice League, even though they were there, they didn't overshadow Superman. This is by all means a Superman movie in every sense of the word. Okay, this is Superman. It wasn't Superman guest starring. No, it's a Superman film. Everyone else played a bit part in this story. Look, I had a good time. Whether you guys enjoy it or not, I guess it's a matter of taste. I'm not dumping on anybody who doesn't like it. If you don't like it, you have that right. You definitely have that right. I hated Batman versus Superman, right? And I know some people love it. For some people, that's their favorite comic book movie. It is what it is. But guys, I think when you're listening to people, when you're getting opinions, when you're trying to decide for yourself if this is something you should drop your $20 on, I encourage you to look at the source. Look at who's telling you to either watch it or not watch it, because you don't want to watch a bunch of shills who give this movie a 10 out of 10 because they got early access from Warner Brothers, right? You don't want to listen to them because they're full of shit. You also don't want to listen to people who are like basically rage baiters, right? Who basically gave this movie a bad review before they even saw it. You don't want to listen to that either. You want to listen to people who are very, middle of the road. And when I say middle of the road, I mean they have arguments on both ends. They could tell you what's good about it. They could tell you what's bad about it, and it's authentic and it's real, right? That's what you want. So that's what I'm trying to do. I'm not giving away too much of this film because I do want you guys to watch it. And you guys know my rule. If I like a film, I'm never going to spoil it for you completely. Even though I put the big spoiler warning up, I'm not going to completely spoil the film because there's a lot of things I left out of this review. But I will say this. I think the world that James Gunn is setting up, I don't know if I'm being honest. I don't know if I'm excited yet. I don't know how this universe is going to pan out. I want it to succeed. Like I said, I trust Gunn. I believe in Gunn. I'm a big fan. I'll call him out on his shit when I have to. But if I'm being really honest, I don't know going forward if I'm excited for anything. There's Lobo, there's Supergirl, there's Clayface, and then there's Peacemaker, right? If we're talking James Gunn's DC. Now, you got the Batman 2 coming out from Matt Reeves, but to my knowledge, that has nothing to do with James Gunn's DCU. So I don't know. All I can do is hope that he comes through. So if nothing else, he's already doing better than the MCU. So I mean, but I will say that if this movie doesn't do well, if Fantastic Four doesn't do well, if these two movies don't do well, we might be looking at literally the beginning of the end of the comic book movie franchise. We might get one or two movies here or there. But I think we're looking at the end. I don't think these studios can afford it anymore. Anyway, y'all, that's going to be it for me, man. Like I said, I had some things to talk about, and again, the thing you're going to hear the most, the thing you're going to hear more than anything is that all Superman does is get his ass kicked in this film. Guys, just remember, going into this movie, this is a young Superman. It's a year 3 Superman. He's not OP. He's not at his full strength just yet, but he is still very strong in this film. Still stronger than everyone else on the planet, right? So anyway, y'all, do me a favor. Again, I know I mentioned it earlier before, but if y'all can sub to the channel. That would help me out. If you could leave a like, if you could leave a comment, I would greatly appreciate it. And I will talk to you guys soon.